"You're going to die today," the ragged little girl told the millionaire as he prayed in the cemetery. Then, seconds later, she pushes him, and a stray bullet whizzes past him, and everyone is shocked by what they discover. Comment and give my story a rating from 0 to 10. Your opinion is very important, and subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'm counting on your help. The frigid winter wind whipped through the air as the widowed millionaire entered the gates of the city's grand cemetery, Arlington Memorial. His footsteps echoed in the silence as he walked along the marble path, carrying a bouquet of white roses that trembled against the icy breeze. At 30, he looked like a Hollywood heartthrob, but his emerald eyes carried the weight of a sadness that no amount of money could alleviate. The black granite headstone gleamed under the weak afternoon light. He knelt before the grave, placing the flowers carefully and whispering words that only she could hear. His fortune, built through investments in stocks and real estate, meant nothing without the woman who had passed away 2 years prior. The wealth he had accumulated through the construction company inherited from his father seemed empty, like a house without a soul. "I still don't know how to go on without you," he murmured, touching the name engraved in the marble with trembling fingers. It was then that he felt a small presence behind him. He turned and found a 4-year-old girl, as frail as a broken doll, watching him with enormous, frightened eyes. Her clothes were dirty and torn, her feet bare despite the intense cold. Dark hair fell in disheveled strands over her thin face, and she held a small dented tin can in her hands. "Hey, mister," she said in a voice that seemed to carry more wisdom than her age allowed. "You need to get out of here. Now." He frowned, confused. "What did you say?" The girl approached, her eyes fixed on something beyond him. "Danger's coming. You gotta move. Please." Before he could answer, she stretched out her small hands and pushed him with surprising strength for such a little child. He stumbled sideways, tripping over a stone and falling onto the damp grass. At the same instant, the sound of a gunshot echoed through the cemetery, and a bullet cut through the air exactly where he had been standing seconds before, shattering the marble headstone behind him. The businessman's heart leaped into his throat as he stared at the smoking hole in the stone, then at the girl who remained standing, as if this were perfectly normal. Screams echoed through the cemetery as other people ran in panic, but she remained there, watching him with those big, sad eyes. "How did you know?" he asked, still on the ground, his voice trembling. The girl shrugged. "I always know when something bad's gonna happen. It's like an ugly song that plays in my head." He stood up slowly, his legs wobbly, looking around for the shooter. But whoever it was had already disappeared among the trees of the cemetery. Security guards appeared running, shouting for everyone to get down. But the danger had passed. The girl had saved his life. "What's your name?" he asked, crouching down to be at her level. "Doesn't matter," she replied, shaking the can in her hand. "You got any spare change? My mom said if I don't bring back any money today, she's gonna be real mad." The businessman looked at the child with a mixture of fascination and horror. She had just saved his life with an inexplicable ability to foresee danger, and yet she was only worried about getting handouts for a mother who was clearly exploiting her. "Where's your mom?" he asked, taking his wallet out of his pocket. "Waiting down at the station. She said if I don't get at least $50 today, I ain't gonna eat again." The girl spoke with a naturalness that made his heart clench. He put all the bills he had in her can, over $500, and saw the child's eyes widen. "That's a lot of money," she whispered. "You saved my life. It's the least I can do." The girl smiled for the first time, a shy smile that lit up her dirty face. "Thanks, mister. Now my mom won't yell at me today." As she ran away among the tombstones, the businessman remained standing, processing what had just happened. Someone had tried to kill him. If it hadn't been for a 4-year-old beggar girl with an inexplicable ability, he would be dead at that moment. But who wanted to harm him, and why? In the following days, he couldn't get the child out of his head. He hired private security, and changed his routine, but the image of those big, sad eyes haunted him. He began to research street children in the area, discovering a world of suffering that his life of privilege had kept hidden. A week later, he returned to the cemetery, not to visit his wife's grave, but looking for the girl. He found her in the same spot, sitting next to an old headstone, drawing in the dirt with a stick. This time, she wasn't alone. A gaunt woman, with red eyes and disheveled clothes, watched her from afar, clearly under the influence of something. "You came back?" said the girl, looking at him with surprise. "I came to see how you're doing." He sat down next to her on the grass. "What are you drawing?" "Birds," she replied, showing the simple lines in the dirt. "They can fly away when they want." The simplicity of the answer hit him like a punch. That child dreamed of freedom, of escaping a life that no child should know. At that moment, something changed inside him. For the first time since his wife's passing, he felt a clear purpose emerging in his heart. But when he looked at the woman watching from afar, he saw something in her eyes that made him realize that saving that girl would be more complicated than he imagined, and that the dangers that threatened his own life were only just beginning. 2 weeks had passed since their first encounter in the cemetery, and the businessman could no longer concentrate on business. Sitting in his luxurious office in the city center, he looked at the construction company's financial reports without really seeing them. His mind was fixed on the sad-eyed girl and the inexplicable way she had foreseen the attempt on his life. His investments in stocks continued to yield substantial profits, and his Bitcoin assets had appreciated considerably in the last month. But none of that mattered. The money that had once brought him satisfaction now seemed like just empty numbers in a bank account. He had tried to hire private investigators to find out more about the child, but always ran into the same problem. How to explain that he wanted to find a street girl because she possessed supernatural abilities? On Thursday morning, while reviewing construction contracts, his cell phone rang. It was Robert, his partner and best friend since college. "I need to talk to you," said Robert, his voice tense. "It's about that shopping center project. We have a problem." An hour later, Robert entered the office with a somber expression. He carried a folder full of documents and had dark circles under his eyes, as if he hadn't slept in days. "I found something about the contracts your father signed before he passed," Robert began, sitting heavily in the leather armchair. "There are serious irregularities. Overbilling, inferior quality materials being charged as premium, bribes to expedite permits." The businessman felt his blood run cold. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the construction company has been involved in corruption schemes for at least 5 years. Your father, he knew about everything, and now that you've taken over, you're the main target." The pieces began to fall into place in the young millionaire's mind. The threats he had been receiving, the strange looks in meetings, the assassination attempt in the cemetery. It wasn't paranoia. It was a consequence of crimes he didn't even know existed. "Who else knows about this?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "Local politicians, some businessmen in the industry, and probably very dangerous people who don't want to see these secrets exposed." Robert ran a hand over his face. "You need to make a decision. Either you get into the dirty game or I end up dead like I almost did in the cemetery." That afternoon, instead of going home, the businessman drove to the subway station, where he had seen the girl with her mother weeks before. He found her sitting on the marble steps, the collection can beside her, watching the people go by. This time, she was alone. "Hey," he said, sitting down next to her. "Where's your mum?" The girl shrugged, without taking her eyes off the crowd. "She went to take care of stuff. Said today I gotta get more money than ever, or else what? Or else she's gonna take me far away from here, to a place where bad people are gonna use me." The child spoke with terrifying simplicity. "She said I'm special, that there's people who pay a lot of money for kids like me." The businessman's heart leaped into his throat. What kind of people? Before she could answer, her eyes widened and she grabbed his arm tightly. "You gotta get out of here, now! They're coming! Who's coming? The bad men! They want to hurt you!" Her voice was full of panic. "Please, trust me." This time, he didn't hesitate. He picked the girl up and ran to the underground parking garage while she pointed directions with urgency. "There, behind that pillar," she whispered. Moments later, 3 men in suits appeared in the station, looking around with dangerous expressions. One of them was talking on the phone, clearly frustrated at not finding the target. The businessman watched from afar, holding the girl against his chest, feeling her heart beat as fast as his. "How did you know?" he asked when the men finally left. "The ugly song came back," she replied, resting her head on his shoulder. "It always plays when someone's gonna get hurt. It's like I can see bad things before they happen." That night, for the first time in 2 years, the businessman didn't sleep alone in his mansion. He took the girl home, improvising a guest room for her. While she took her first hot bath in months, he called Robert. "I need your help with something that's going to sound crazy," he said, watching through the bathroom door the child playing with soap bubbles, as if it were the most magical thing in the world. "Crazier than finding out our company is a front for money laundering. I found a girl. She's 4 years old, and she can predict danger. She saved my life twice." The silence on the other end of the line lasted long seconds. "You're kidding, right? She warned me about the men at the station today. If it wasn't for her, I'd be dead now." "Where is she?" "Here at home. I can't let her go back to the streets. Her mother is planning to sell her to dangerous people." When the girl came out of the bathroom, wearing an oversized T-shirt that he had improvised as pajamas, she looked like a completely different child. Clean and fed, her eyes shone with a light he hadn't seen before. "Can I stay here today?" she asked, her voice small and hopeful. "You can stay as long as you want," he replied, and for the first time in months, he felt useful again. But while the girl slept peacefully in the guest bed, he remained awake in the living room, processing the day's revelations. His life had become a complex web of corruption, danger, and unexpected responsibilities, and at the center of it all was a 4-year-old child whose inexplicable ability to foresee the future was becoming his only protection against forces he didn't yet fully understand. The phone rang at 3 in the morning. It was an unknown number. "We know you're with the girl," said a raspy voice. "She doesn't belong to you. Give her back or the consequences will be severe for both of you." The call ended, leaving him alone in the silence of the night, realizing that he had just entered a war he didn't know the rules of, but from which he could no longer escape. The morning brought new challenges that the businessman was not prepared to face. When he went down to the kitchen, he found the girl sitting at the table, playing with the cereal in her plate, but her face was pale and tense. "I couldn't sleep well," she said, looking at him with those big eyes. "The ugly song didn't stop playing all night. There's a lot of bad stuff coming for us." Before he could answer, the doorbell rang. Through the window, he saw a black car parked in front of the gate, and an elegant, middle-aged woman walking towards the door. It was Helena, his mother-in-law, the family matriarch, who had tried to control his life since his daughter passed away. "Stay here," he told the girl, running to answer the door. Helena entered without waiting for an invitation, her dark eyes scanning the house like a predator assessing territory. At 55, she maintained an impeccable appearance and an authoritarian posture that intimidated most people. "I've heard disturbing rumors about you," she said, removing her leather gloves slowly. "They say you're harboring a street child, a girl." "That's none of your business, Helena." "Of course it is." She turned to him with an icy smile. "Have you forgotten that I have a stake in the construction company, that your erratic behavior affects my investments? An unstable person cannot manage a company the size of ours." At that moment, the girl appeared in the entrance to the room, curious about the visit. Helena examined her from head to toe with an expression of barely disguised disgust. Good heavens, Helena murmured. It's true. You really brought this creature into our home. Don't talk about her like that, said the businessman, feeling anger rising in his chest. The girl approached him and whispered, She has bad thoughts about us. The song's getting louder when she looks at me. Helena heard the whisper and laughed bitterly. The child is talking nonsense. This proves my point. You've completely lost your mind. Over the next 2 weeks, Helena launched a systematic campaign to question the businessman's sanity. She began appearing at the construction company regularly, talking to employees, asking questions about his recent behavior, documenting every decision he made. Meanwhile, life with the girl revealed aspects of her personality that surprised him. She was incredibly intelligent for her age, but she carried deep traumas that manifested in constant nightmares. Some nights, he found her sitting on the floor of her room, drawing dark figures with crayons, trying to give shape to the dangers she felt approaching. "Why are you helping me?" she asked one morning as they had breakfast together. "Because you don't deserve to live in fear," he replied, realizing he was speaking more to himself than to her. "My mom used to say that rich people only help when they want something in return." The mention of her mother always made the child sad. She had revealed, little by little, details about her previous life, the dangerous places where they were forced to beg, the strange men who sometimes talked to her mother about her, the constant hunger and the cold nights on the streets. A month after taking the girl in, the businessman received a call that would change everything. It was from Dr. Miranda, a doctor at County General Hospital who cared for vulnerable people. "Are you related to a 4-year-old girl named Marina?" the doctor asked. The businessman hesitated. The girl had never revealed her real name. "Why are you asking?" "Because a woman was admitted here this morning in critical condition, overdose. Before losing consciousness, she kept repeating the name Marina and an address that matches yours." His heart leaped into his throat. "How is she?" "Stable, but critical. If you have any connection with the child, you need to come here." At the hospital, the businessman saw the girl's mother for the first time without the veil of substances that always clouded her eyes. Even unconscious and connected to machines, it was possible to see that she had once been beautiful. Her dark hair was identical to her daughter's, and there was a fragility in her face that awakened his compassion. Dr. Miranda led him to a private room. "She wasn't just using drugs," he explained. "We found signs of recent beating. Someone deliberately hurt her before forcing her to take a near-fatal amount of heroin. Was this attempted murder?" "It seems that way. And there's more. She was carrying this." The doctor showed him a crumpled piece of paper with an address and detailed instructions on where to deliver the special merchandise. The businessman read the paper and felt his blood run cold. The instructions specifically mentioned a 4-year-old girl with special abilities and a dollar amount that made him realize how valuable his little ward was to very dangerous people. When he returned home that night, he found the girl drawing on the living room floor. This time, her drawings showed a woman lying in a bed surrounded by machines. "Did you dream about your mom?" he asked, sitting down next to her. She nodded, tears running down her face. "She's very sick. But it's not her fault. The bad men did this to her because she didn't want to give me to them." The revelation hit him like a lightning bolt. The girl's mother was not just an irresponsible addict. She was being blackmailed, forced to use her daughter for criminal purposes. And when she tried to protect her, she almost paid with her life. "We have to help her," said the girl, grabbing his hand. "She's the only family I have left." That night, while the child slept, the businessman stayed awake planning. He knew he could no longer simply hide the girl in his house. The forces that were chasing her were more powerful and organized than he had imagined. And Helena was documenting his every move, waiting for the right moment to question his mental capacity and take control of the company. At 2 in the morning, his phone rang again. This time it was a female voice, soft but threatening. "The woman in the hospital will recover," said the voice, "but that only happened because we want you to understand what we do with people who don't cooperate. You have 48 hours to return our property." She's not anyone's property. All children with special gifts are valuable assets in the right market. You're just a rich businessman playing hero. We're professionals. The call ended, leaving him alone with a terrifying certainty. He had less than 2 days to find a way to protect the girl from forces he was barely beginning to understand, while his own life crumbled under the weight of family secrets and threats that came from all directions. And in her room, the girl woke up from a nightmare, whispering into the darkness, "They're gonna try to separate us tomorrow." The song is screaming now. The morning of the deadline arrived, with an urgency that cut through the air like a blade. The businessman woke up early, finding the girl already dressed, sitting on the edge of the bed with a small backpack that he had bought for her. "We need to get out of here," she said, her eyes reflecting a wisdom that should not exist in a 4-year-old. The song is screaming. "They're coming to get us today, and your mother-in-law is going to help." "Helena? How do you know that?" "Last night, while you were talking on the phone, I saw her talking to bad men in the garden. She promised to help if they let her keep your company." His heart leapt into his throat. Helena had allied herself with the criminals who were chasing the girl, willing to sacrifice both of them to take control of the construction company and his fortune accumulated in investments and properties. 30 minutes later, they left through the back door of the mansion, taking only the essentials. The businessman had transferred most of his liquid assets to an offshore account, keeping only enough to survive away from the city. For 3 months, they lived as fugitives in a small town in the countryside. He got a job as a carpenter in a local woodworking shop, using skills he had learned observing construction sites for the company. It was honest, sweaty work that gave him a satisfaction that money had never provided. The girl adapted surprisingly well to the simple life. She attended a local elementary school where her intelligence impressed the teachers, but she had learned to hide her special abilities. Only with him did she still whisper warnings about small dangers. "Don't cross the street now," or "That man's gonna spill coffee on you." But the peace was interrupted when Dr. Miranda managed to locate them through contacts in the countryside. The girl's mother had woken up from her coma and was begging to see her daughter. "She has something important to tell you," the doctor said during the call. Something about the girl's past that could change everything. Against his instincts for self-preservation, the businessman decided to return to the capital. At the hospital, the girl's mother was sitting in bed, still fragile but with clear eyes for the first time in years. "Marina," she whispered when she saw her daughter, reaching out with trembling arms. The reunion was emotional, but what the mother revealed left everyone in shock. "I'm not an addict," she said, holding her daughter's hand. "I never was. They forced me to use drugs to maintain control over me. It all started when I discovered something at the construction company where I worked." The businessman straightened up. "You worked at our company?" "For 2 years, in the finance department. I discovered that your father was diverting funds from social projects to personal accounts. When I tried to report it, Helena threatened me. She said that if I said anything, she would make my daughter disappear." The pieces of the puzzle began to fit together. "Is that why you left home and went to live on the streets?" "Helena blackmailed me for years. She forced me to give Marina fake drugs, substances that supposedly would enhance her psychic abilities. When I realized she was planning to sell my daughter to people who experiment on special children, I tried to run away. That's when they beat me and gave me a real overdose." The girl, who had been quietly listening to everything, finally spoke. "I always knew you were trying to protect me, Mom. The song never played when you were around." At that moment, the businessman made the decision that would change their lives forever. In the following days, he turned over all the evidence he possessed about the construction company's crimes to the authorities, including recordings he had secretly made of Helena confessing her participation in the schemes. The legal process was long and painful. Helena was arrested, along with several local politicians involved in the corruption. The construction company was partially dismantled, and much of the businessman's fortune was confiscated as compensation for his father's crimes. But something unexpected happened during the investigation. It was discovered that the girl's mother had meticulously documented all the illegal transactions during her years at the company, keeping hidden evidence that became fundamental to the case. Her courage in trying to report the crimes, even under threat, was recognized by the authorities. A year after Helena's arrest, the businessman, the girl, and her mother were sitting in the backyard of a simple house on the outskirts of town. He had used the little money he had left to buy that modest property, where he now worked as a freelance carpenter, building furniture for the local community. The girl's mother had fully recovered and gotten a job as an accountant in a small company. Her previous experience, combined with her knowledge of corrupt practices, had made her a valuable employee in matters of financial transparency. "You know what's funny?" she said, watching her daughter play in the garden with other children from the neighborhood. "Marina still has her abilities, but they've changed. Now she predicts good things instead of just dangers." It was true. The girl had developed an ability to sense when positive things were about to happen. The previous week, she had insisted that they go out to the backyard at the exact moment when a rainbow appeared after a sudden rain. "Maybe it's because she finally feels safe," said the businessman, watching the child chase butterflies. That night, as he put the girl to sleep, she looked at him with those big eyes that now shone with genuine happiness. "You know you don't have to worry about me anymore, right?" she said. "Now I have you and Mom, and the song that plays in my head has turned into a beautiful tune." "What's that beautiful tune like?" She began to hum a soft melody, a song about birds that found their nest after flying for a long time, looking for a home. 2 years later, the former businessman had built a small, thriving woodworking shop, specializing in eco-friendly furniture. His income was a fraction of what he had possessed before, but the satisfaction of working with his own hands, of creating something tangible and useful, was worth more than all the stock dividends he had lost. The girl, now 7 years old, attended a local school where she was known for her exceptional intuition for helping struggling classmates. Teachers commented on how she always knew exactly when someone needed emotional support. Her mother had become one of the most respected accountants in the region, helping small businesses maintain ethical and transparent financial practices. On a Sunday afternoon, the three of them were assembling a piece of furniture together in the workshop when the girl stopped suddenly, smiling. "What is it?" he asked. "The song is playing again. But this time, it's saying that our family is going to grow." 6 months later, he and the girl's mother were married in a simple ceremony in the backyard of their home, with the little one as the maid of honor. And a year after the wedding, when the girl correctly predicted that she would have a little brother, they understood that her special gifts were not a curse, but a blessing that had guided them to find each other. True wealth, they discovered, was not in bank accounts or assets, but in the courage to do what is right, and in the family they built through love, sacrifice, and the determination to protect the most vulnerable. And every night, as he put his children to sleep, the former millionaire silently thanked that brave little girl who had saved him not only from a bullet in the cemetery, but from an empty and pointless life. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring you videos every day that will make your life happier. Comment what you thought of my story, giving a rating from 0 to 10, and thank you very much.